Hi, this is Diane Lovetobake, and what we're going to make are bread cookies. I know that sounds pretty unusual. I was at a friend's house and she had made these, and I had never really saw them or heard them or ever tasted them before, but are they good? What I like about these cookies is you don't have to put sugar on the top. You don't have to garnish them with anything. You can eat them plain, or you can put your coarse colored sugar on it. You know, whatever type of jimmies or decorations that you want. I mean, you can make them for different occasions or different holidays or birthdays. So it's really endless what you can do to decorate these cookies. But yet the nature of the cookie, it's bread. And I'd like to give you the recipe right off the bat. Now, I made the cookie dough in my bread maker on the dough cycle. You can make this by hand if you prefer, with your stand-up mixer and hook, but I like the consistency, and that's one of the reasons why I like to make my my dough in the bread maker or the bread machine, whatever you prefer to call it, on the dough cycle. This is just a quarter of less than what you're going to make. I mean, this is going to make a ton of cookies, depending on, you know, how large that you make them. But let me give you the recipe right off the bat. You need 1 cup of milk. Now, you can also use water, because some people can't have milk or choose not to, or maybe you're just out of milk. These cookies will come out fantastic with water or milk. You pick. 1 cup, and you do want to heat it at about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. I heat mine in a coffee mug in the microwave. It's really quick, really easy. You're also going to need 2 tablespoons of butter. Here again, if you don't have butter or you don't like butter, you can use margarine, and these bread cookies will come out fantastic. The only thing I do suggest is to take the butter or the margarine, whatever you choose, take those 2 tablespoons, put them in the water and heat it with the water, because then it'll melt your butter or your fat, and it's going to be easier for mixing purposes and things like that. You also will need 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. You're going to need 2/3 of a teaspoon of salt, and you're going to need bread flour, 4 cups of bread flour. No, I've never made these cookies with all-purpose flour. You do need that rise, so that's why you need to have the bread flour, okay? And 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast to make these bread cookies, okay? So let's do one just to give you an idea. I'm just going to cut a piece off of the dough. The dough is pretty easy to handle. It's quite elastic. It's very easy. You can actually stretch it without a rolling pin. I'm just going to use my handy little rolling pin here for the video. You can certainly roll out a whole big piece of them. You can use whatever type of cookie cutter that you like. I use the big ones. I like nice big cookies when I make these bread cookies. But you can use whatever size cutter that you want, or you can just simply use, you know, a glass if you don't have cookie cutters, whatever the circumference or how big that you want them to be, or the shape, okay? So now I would try to roll them out to about 1/4 of an inch in thickness. And let's just do some circles here to start off with. Now, you are going to place them on a greased cookie pan, and once you do that, you're going to let them rise. You can cover it with a tea towel or a linen towel if you want, and I would let them sit for 10 to 15 minutes, okay? And let's cut out a bigger piece this time and do the large star. Again, use whatever cutter that you want. Okay. I thought it would be quicker to show you one with my little rolling pin rather than my large one. Okay. Alright, we gotta make that just a wee bit bigger. What's nice is you can flip it over, you know, without tearing the cookie dough. Okay. And then just pull away. You might have some little ragged edges on your cookies. So if, you know, that bothers you, just take the tip of the knife and, you know, cut that away if that bothers you. If it doesn't, just leave it, you know, if it has a little bit of a ragged edge. And then just pick the cookie up and place that on your tray. Now, when they do bake up, and do wait that 10 to 15 minutes just sitting on the tray. They are going to rise a little bit for you, and that's what you want, okay? And what I'm going to do is just take an egg wash. Now, if you don't want to use an egg wash, you could use just the whites of the eggs, okay? And I like to, I make some that are just plain with nothing, and then I do like to use the coarse colored sugar. You can use granulated sugar if you want. You can actually dust these with powdered sugar if you want, or just leave them plain. They really are great tasting little cookies, and yet they're, well, they're called bread cookies. So, and I'll put some, I just did some red, white, and blue. Just put a little bit more. And then for spring, I've got some little spring, looks like little daisies of blue and yellow for spring. And then arrange them however that you want. I'm doing it kind of quickly here, but you can certainly take your time. This is also fun to do it with your children or your grandchildren and that kind of thing. So let them set again 10 to 15 minutes on the tray. Now, you are going to bake them though at 375 degrees, and they're going to take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes on these bread cookies. So watch them closely, because you know all our ovens set up so differently. They really do. So you don't want to burn them. Now, when they do bake up, some are actually going to puff up just like bread, so don't be alarmed by that. It'll have a little bubble. Some they won't, so they might not be all perfect. So hopefully that won't bother you, and it won't affect the taste at all. I think it's what makes these cookies very unique. So let me show you. Let me rinse my hands quickly, and then I'd like to show you the finished product of these cookies. And this is how they turn out. As I mentioned, you can see this little one is very puffed up on the top, just like bread would, and then a nice golden brown on the bottom. I just put the egg wash on that. There's no sugar or anything like that. These are delicious just plain. And then I have the star here to show you, again, just with a little egg wash, nicely brown. Now, if you want these cookies plain without any sugars or decorations or colored jimmies, and you like that brown look, you can actually flip them over when you're baking them and have them brown on both sides. That's going to be up to you. Again, it won't affect the taste of the cookie, but this gives you an idea of what they look like when they do bake up. And here's one again. Some will puff up, some will have like a little bubble. You could take a pointed end of a knife if you do happen to be checking on them in the oven, and you can deflate it. I just leave it because I think, again, that's what make these cookies, you know, so unique. You know, I really do. And then what we're going to do is just break open one, and you can see from the cookie that they will tear. In other words, because they're bread cookies. But the inside of the cookie, let me see if I can just cut away a little bit, that the crumb is very light. It's not real dense or real heavy. I'd say light to medium as far as the crumb inside of it, but they're not rubbery or doughy. You know, if you bake them, if you make them a little thinner, then they'll have a very crisp. When you break them, you'll hear them snap. So it's going to really depend on you how thick or thin. Generally, I do mine about 1/4 of an inch, but again, you can make them thinner, but some of the edges will brown, maybe a little too much, or you might find that the cookie is a little dry. So you decide on how thin you want them. It's just that if they are thinner, they are going to bake up a lot quicker. And I don't try to go over that 1/4 of an inch when I bake them. But if you want a harder cookie, then make them, you know, a little bit thinner than 1/4 of an inch, that type of thing. And remember that you can bake them on both sides if you want, and then you can garnish them with anything, colored sugar, granulated sugar, you know, even your powdered sugar icing if you wanted to, or drizzle chocolate over them. But it's kind of a very quick and unique recipe, I thought, and I wanted to do a video on these bread cookies. Well, I want to thank you for watching Diane Lovetobake. As a reminder, if you try these bread cookies and you like the recipe, please leave a comment because I like to hear from you. I will answer in a timely fashion. And then I ask you to please solely watch me on YouTube because that's the only place that I put my videos on. So when you write to me, I'm going to see that comment or see that question, and I'm going to be able to answer it because you have watched me and wrote to me on YouTube. Well, I hope that I described the recipe well enough because again, they no longer will be listed under the video. So I hope that I went through clearly enough. If not, leave me a note or a message and I will answer it. So, thank you for watching Diane Lovetobake. Give these bread cookies a try. I think you're going to like them. So, if you're so inclined and you'd like to subscribe to the channel, boy, I'd really appreciate it. Or if you'd like to give the video a like, I couldn't thank you enough. Thanks for watching Diane Lovetobake, and I'll see you soon.